Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Hannah. Hit that subscribe button. I'm posting every single day up until December 25th, so you don't want to miss out. But today I'm going to share some of my favorite fashion influencers that I follow. I think it's so important to find inspiration in other people. I mean, I don't think it's a form of copying or stealing. I think it's just you're bouncing off other people's creative mind. I know in the creative industry, you're always working in group settings. You're always finding inspiration in each other. And I think that's what makes your content or what you create that much better. So I love finding inspiration. I love discovering new people and taking inspiration from them. I think it's important and it's part of life. So these are some of the people that I love to look at for fashion inspiration as well as photo inspiration or even just like posing. Especially when you're taking outfit photos for Instagram or content for Instagram. Sometimes the way you pose, you want to change it up a little bit or, I don't know, find a new angle. And I definitely look at different influencers to see how they're posing or different ways I can pose in a photo. So I am going to screen record my phone. Okay. So the first person that I love to follow for fashion inspiration or imagery in general is Bella Thomas. I mean, I just love how simple and minimalistic all of her pictures are. They're so subtle yet make a huge impact and kind of just make you stop and like stare at the photo. For example, like this is just such a simple, not much happening, you wouldn't think of photo, but yet it's just the composition is just amazing and I just love it, and I love how beautiful it is, especially like this of the oyster shell. I'm pretty sure it's an oyster or mussel. I'm not really sure. I don't eat those, so I'm not familiar, but I just love this composition and I love the shading that she did, how she toned down the light. It just looks really, really pretty. And I just love how natural all of her photos are. They don't look like they're very edited. They're just very simple and minimalistic, and yeah, I just really, really like the way that she captures images and the simplicity of her feed. I just think it looks really, really good. So I definitely look at her for inspiration. Also fashion, I love her fashion sense. I just think this is just like everything. I love that look so much. I love the neutral tones in it. It just looks beautiful. Another person I look for inspiration, mostly for imagery, is Christy Tyler. I'm pretty sure she's a photographer. I'm not 100% sure though. But I also just love how she sees a picture. I think she just captures it beautifully. And what she takes photos of, you wouldn't think of, but when she posts it, it's just like, oh my god, that's just stunning. I love that. And it's the simplest thing. For example, like this lamp, like the shadow and everything and the simplicity of the composition just makes it beautiful. And I would never think of taking a picture like that, but she does, and that's why I follow her for inspiration. But yeah, I am obsessed with her. I love her feed, very black and white, neutral colors. She doesn't really do any pop of color. It's very minimalistic and very neutral. Your tans, your whites, your beiges. This is another picture that I was talking about that I would never think of taking a picture of, but it's just so pretty. I just love it. It's like capturing a simple, beautiful moment with the bread and the cheese and the olives, and I just love the coloring of it. So yeah, she is definitely someone I follow for mostly imagery. I just love the way that she sees an image. Another person, obviously, that I love to follow is Matilda Durf. I mean, Durf Avenue, you know my obsession. But what I love to follow her is to see how she incorporates color. She's definitely, her style is definitely more colorful than mine. I am not one to push the boundaries. So I definitely like to look towards her for maybe stepping out of my comfort zone and adding more color in my style, or seeing how she's doing it and maybe I'm doing it in a more subtle, my kind of way, but still you know, stepping out a little bit. I just think she adds color really well, and she has a cooler sense of color to her style than obviously I do, because I kind of stick towards the neutrals. But also I look towards her for posing. I think she does a really good job of posing naturally, and it doesn't look awkward or off in her photos. It's very natural, so I definitely look at her for that kind of inspiration. But yeah, I mean, and also hair, obviously. I love her hair. I just think it's gorgeous, so definitely look at her for hair inspiration and that kind of thing. Another person I love to follow is Josephine HJ. I just think her photos and her outfits, I love her fashion. It's very much more of my style. I mean, hers is definitely, I think, more menswear kind of style than I am, but I just love her neutral aesthetic, and she does here and there add a pop of color, which I appreciate, and I like to look at her when she does, because I'm more towards the neutral like she is. But she is definitely a little bit more grungy. I don't know if that's the right word, but definitely more menswear, if that makes sense. I don't know. Another person I love to follow is Ella Carberg. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right, but I just love that she uses film. Most of her pictures are film photos, and I love film, and I want to get more into using film. So I just love her photos. I love the film aesthetic. I just think it's so beautiful, and she is definitely way more colorful than I am. She loves a pop of color. She loves incorporating color into her fashion, so I definitely look again at her for color inspo and how to incorporate it into my style, but my own way, obviously. But yeah, I just love her style. It's definitely a little bit more out there for me. She definitely loves mixing colors that I usually would never think of, but I just love how she captures her photos in film. It's just very inspiring, and I definitely want to get more into doing that. My next fashion influencer that I love to follow is Hannah McAleer, and she is a photographer, and I just absolutely love her imagery. I think she is just really great at capturing a picture. I mean, she's a photographer, so obviously she's good at it, but I love looking at her just for like photo inspiration, or just to like admire her photos, honestly. I just think she has a really good taste, and also her fashion sense is just very effortless, but it's beautiful. Like, I just absolutely love that. I think it's so elegant, and yeah, I just look at her for fashion, but mostly photography, and just I love to look at her photos. I think they're very simple yet stunning and eye-catching. I am so into the minimalistic photography and capturing the subtle moments in life, and I think she does a really good job of that. So I love just looking at her photos and her videos, and things that she captures like this I think is absolutely stunning, and it's just so simple. So yeah, love looking at her for that. Another person I love to follow is Felipe. I don't know how to pronounce her name, honestly, but I just think she's just so cute, and just seems like a really like positive mindset, and it just makes me happy when I look at her photos, honestly. It just like brightens up my day, because she is very colorful. She just seems like a very positive, like somebody that you look at and you're just like, wow, like I want to be living like them, or have the mindset like them, because they just seem so happy and positive and just living their best life. So I just honestly just love looking at her photos, because they're just so, I don't know, bright and colorful and just full of like happy energy. So she's a really good person to follow for just like a sense of happiness, and just to just brighten up your mood. And she also makes really good reels. She posts a lot of reels, so finding inspiration in reels and like how to capture images and things like that. Oh, that was my work schedule. She is a really great person to follow. And then the last person is Hannah McAleer. She's a photographer but also an influencer. And I just like her fashion, her imagery. Honestly, I follow her for everything. She again has the very minimalistic, neutral aesthetic. And I love how all of her pictures are more on the darker lighting. And I think that's really, I'm really into that right now. Like toning down the light in my images. I just think it just adds something or gives this emphasis to your photo that's really unique and different and just like kind of just eye-catching, and I really, really like it, and she does a really good job at that. Like this, I just absolutely love. I like how she uses black and white in her feed, and yeah, she's just another person, and I love her fashion, and she also works with a lot of like smaller businesses as well, so I love to look at honestly all of these influencers for finding new brands. I follow fashion influencers mainly also because I love discovering new brands, smaller brands, brands that I've never heard of, and usually they're the ones to post about it because they're either getting gifted or things like that, and she's a good one because she works with a lot of smaller companies or brands that I might have not heard of before. So I'm always checking on what's tagged in the photo and what she's wearing because I'm obsessed with finding and discovering new brands for clothing, jewelry, accessories, shoes. So she's a great one for that kind of thing. But those are all the influencers that I follow. Not all of them, but my favorites that I'm always looking at are just always on my feed because I feel like I look at them the most. But another way that I also love to find fashion and inspiration is through Pinterest. I use Pinterest all the time. I went through a period that I wasn't really using Pinterest. I think right after college, because I just used Pinterest all the time in college for projects and things like that, that I kind of like went away. But then over the past like year or two, kind of when like quarantine started, I made a new Pinterest and started pinning again. And because I feel like from college to now, my style or kind of like changed or evolved. I feel like everybody's style changes over the years, so I made a new Pinterest and I'm like just addicted to pinning and finding inspiration through Pinterest. That's like a great way to find inspiration in anything. So as you can see, I have so many boards that I pin so many different things to, but fashion is definitely one that I love to pin. I am just always looking at fashion inspiration on Pinterest. Here is my fashion board currently. As you can see, a lot of neutrals and just sweaters and blazers and things like that, but I'm obsessed with Pinterest, so I highly recommend getting a Pinterest. It's super fun and a great way to like store all of your photos or all your pictures where you find inspiration for so many different things, for photography, photo inspo, fashion, just everything. Like I have a food inspo, but really it's just like food photo imagery that I just think is really pretty or gives me inspo for maybe like me taking a photo of food later on, or just like how they're capturing it or things like that. That sounds so weird and so intense, but I just love Pinterest. I'm always on here, so definitely follow me on Pinterest if you haven't. I'm very active on it. I'm always pinning new things, but Pinterest is definitely somewhere I look for inspiration. And I don't follow that many people, but I know a lot of influencers or celebrity stylists or YouTubers have Pinterest boards that you can follow too, and brands, which is fun to look at because that's where they're finding inspiration, and then you like their content, so you're probably gonna like their inspiration photos as well. So definitely look at Pinterest. That's another great way to find inspiration, and I'm always looking at Pinterest for inspiration. But those two are basically where I find my fashion inspiration. Other than that, it's just like runway shows and kind of just street style, like being outside. When I lived in New York, I would always find inspiration because you're just like seeing so many cool people walking around. Or when I studied abroad in France, I found so much inspiration just traveling. And in Paris, so street style, just being out and about, inspiration, you see it everywhere. So that's another great place to find inspiration for like outfits and fashion. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys liked seeing where I find inspiration in the fashion influencers that I love to follow. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hit that subscribe button, and I love you guys so much. Bye.